You own the capacitor, but is it in the warehouse, on the right truck, or already used on the job? And if it was used, did that material cost reach the job margin? That's what HVAC inventory software should answer. In this video, I'll track one capacitor from warehouse inventory to service truck stock, add it to a work order, and connect it to HVAC job costing. And ultimately, your software should support this entire flow. Most field service softwares out there, they don't have inventory tracking. That's why you need to buy another add-on to do that. But FieldCamp is different. FieldCamp comes in built with the HVAC inventory module. So basically it ties in with your jobs. Then you can see for what clients what inventory or parts were used, and you have a combined view of inventory management, what is running on low stock, where are your inventory locations, who are the vendors where you buy the inventory from, and if any purchase orders, you can create them right here in the software. Now one thing which is important is HVAC parts inventory is not the same as HVAC equipment tracking. Equipment tracking covers the customer's rooftop unit or furnace, model, serial number, warranty and service history. Inventory management covers the parts and materials your company owns and consumes: capacitors, contactors, filters, motors, refrigerant and fittings. Now let's build this example. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the 45 micro farad capacitor. In the price book, it's set up as a product with the SKU, as you can see, and then it has its selling price, material cost, inventory tracking turned on. Each field has a job. The SKU identifies the part, the selling price is what we charge, the material cost is what the part costs the business, inventory tracking controls the quantity. Next are the stock locations. An inventory location in FieldCamp can represent a warehouse, a service truck, or another place where you hold stock. Here, the main warehouse has 10 capacitors and truck 12 has 2, as you can see. If I wanted to add a location, it's pretty simple. And as I said, there are multiple types of inventory locations you can have itself. Now, let's say I want one more on truck 12. For instance, let's take this example. The main warehouse has 10 capacitors and truck 12 has 2. I want one more on truck 12, so I start a stock transfer and select the warehouse as the source, select truck 12 as the destination and enter one and add a note. Here's how you would do it. So what you'll do is I'll go into one of the capacitors. I'll just say transfer. Where do I want to transfer from where to what? What's the note and what's the quantity to transfer? As simple as that. No field service software offers this except FieldCamp. And now let's say after the transfer, the warehouse quantity drops, the truck quantity increases. Now we have a record of the movement instead of just someone saying, I think I put one on the van, which is not exactly how the software should work. Now let's say this is the first job of an HVAC inventory management software. Tell you what part is, how many you have, and where the stock is recorded. Now I will add a capacitor to a no cool work order as a tracked product. How do I do that? So I'll just go to a job. In job there are a few things. First of all, I would just select the client and stuff. This is the basic things. I'll go to the second tab, which is more important. Over here you will see there is 2 or 3 important things. First of all is adding line items. Now when you are doing a job, you are going to be adding line items that are the products that you are going to be consuming at a job. So in this one, I'm consuming the capacitor. So I'm just going to say, like, I've added this and I'm going to use 1 or 2 quantities, for example. And what's the rate of it? Now, because it's not the office or the CSRs or the dispatchers who are going to be doing this, the purpose of now as I said, the CSRs and dispatchers, they are not the ones who is going to be adding this. It's mostly going to be the technicians. So if you give your technicians the permissions to say that, hey, what parts were used at a given job, then they can just go ahead, edit the job and add whatever was consumed. The reason for entering this at the job level is so 2 things. First of all, you can track the job logs. So job logs is basically how much was your profit per job, how much was your expense, labor cost, etc. So you want this to tie into the expense for the job. And secondly, whatever quantity you reflect here in FieldCamp is going to be automatically deducted from the inventory module. So let's just create this, put it into motion. I'll just go here, for instance, I'll go to the visit inside FieldCamp, and then I'll say that, hey, I am in transit, I have arrived, I am starting the work, I am going to complete it, and then I'll just collect the signature and I'll mark it as complete. Once I mark it as complete, you will see that the job status will be completed as well. And now if we go back to the inventory module, you will see the quantity of the capacitor 45 which we use automatically deducted. So this is important. First of all, the job should know the capacitor was consumed, and the inventory module knows the stock exists across warehouse and truck locations, but the current automatic job deduction isn't inherently tied to the assigned technician's truck. It uses the stocked inventory source selected by the current stock logic. So I wouldn't claim that every automatic deduction proves a part came from truck 12. If exact van level consumption matters, verify the source location behavior in your configured workflow. Now let's connect inventory tracking to job cost, because quantity and cost are related, but they are separated data. The inventory record tells us how many capacitors moved where, but the job line items carries the cost basis. The configured job costing view uses that material cost when calculating the profit. Now in our other videos, we have repeatedly said what's the difference between gross profit, gross margin, etc. So if I go back to the logs, first of all, this table, of course, we need to configure it to do this automatic calculation. Gross profit is the job revenue minus the direct labor, material cost, and any other direct cost you include. Gross profit margin is the gross profit divided by job revenue multiplied by 100. For example, if job revenue is $500, direct labor is 150, and material cost is 100, gross profit is $250, gross margin is 50%. Now in FieldCamp, a lot of customers, they don't use the line items. They just go ahead and tell the people or technicians that go into expenses and add whatever expense that you have done for capacitors and stuff. The only problem is it is not reflected for the inventory module where the stock is automatically reduced. So in FieldCamp, what you can do is you can go head over to the settings. Now I'll just go to one of the examples, which is job costing templates. Then as you can see, I have this job HVAC costing. Over here, I can configure this template to be anything. What I mean by that is, let's say the expenses. Now expenses, I have kept it as manual entry, but what I can do is I can also say if it's a job cost or a labor cost, and how do you want to do it, and what's the formula for calculating it. Now formula can be whatever was the line items cost minus the 20% profit margin on every capacitor that we keep. So this is one of the most important features in FieldCamp and most differentiated features. Now if you may ask that, hey, what about the low stock alerts and purchase orders? In FieldCamp, all of that is also possible, where you can easily create a purchase order for a vendor and a particular line item. Now that can be for the capacitor which we are using for and who is the vendor for it, or it can be for any other vendor that you want to explore. It is very important for a HVAC inventory software to have this in motion, so you can literally just connect your job data to the inventory data, and then when the stock is low, you can automatically plan for it as well. Now the good thing is, if you want to say that whenever a stock is low, about 2 or about like below 2 or below 5, you can use the FieldCamp agents, where it will automatically create a purchase order, and low inventory planner is also there. What that does is, low inventory planner will watch the low stock and recommends what to reorder first based on the job impact, where the agent actually predicts that, hey, from the last 1 week's worth of jobs, this is the most used part. So for the next 2 weeks, this is what it will require. So it will tell you that you should order these parts, and it can actually go ahead and create the purchase orders as well. Now FieldCamp can show that an item is short, so the office knows the purchasing action may be needed. I'm not claiming that the workflow can be fully automated. It is just the system can tell you, surface the right data to you, and automate some of the things where you can create these workflow automations. What I mean is, whenever inventory is low, for example, over here it's a different workflow, but whenever inventory is low, automatically notify the person who is handling the inventory that this part's inventory is running low, And if the person goes ahead and decides that, hey, let's create a purchase order, they can do that as well. Now, so what you should test when comparing the HVAC inventory software: take one real part, transfer it from a warehouse to a truck, add it to a work order, change the used quantity, cancel the test job, then verify the warehouse balance, truck inventory, job consumption, and material cost. If those numbers survive the test, you have more than the parts dashboard. You have a reliable chain from warehouse to truck to job cost. If you want to run this HVAC inventory workflow inside FieldCamp, visit fieldcamp.ai and book a demo with us.